The night began with a problem Dr. Amara Hale never expected. The dean had suddenly informed her she must bring a companion to the university's annual charity gala. A mandatory appearance, and an implied expectation. A professor of her status, attending alone, would spark whispers she didn't have the strength to entertain. The issue? She had no one, or at least, no one she was willing to call. Her heart still foolishly clung to a man who existed miles above her world. Alexander Reed, the billionaire who funded her research, praised her brilliance, and left her wondering if he saw her as more than a promising academic. But he was unreachable tonight, and she needed someone now, so she stood in her office, gathering papers that suddenly felt heavier than her entire career, when a knock appeared at the door. Liam, her brightest student, her most infuriating student, the only one bold enough to look at her, not with admiration, but with something warmer, something she pretended not to feel. "Professor Hale," he said softly, leaning against the doorframe with that calm, devastating confidence she tried desperately to ignore. "You look stressed. Want help?" She explained reluctantly about the gala, the expectations, the need for a professional appearance. He listened without interrupting, his gaze steady and almost careful. Then he said it. "Take me." Amara blinked. "You?" "No, absolutely not. Liam, people will think. They'll think you found someone who respects you," he said, stepping closer. "Someone who knows how to stand beside you without overshadowing you." Her pulse betrayed her. "But you're my student," she whispered. "And tonight," he replied, voice deeper than she was prepared for, "I can be your stand-in. Nothing more, nothing less." That should have calmed her. Instead, something inside her chest tightened, like a string being pulled with slow, deliberate precision. Her logic said no. Her loneliness said yes. Her heartbeat made the final vote. Fine," she said, "but strictly formal. No unnecessary comments, no flirting." Liam's slow smile told her he'd heard the rules, and also planned to bend a few. "As you wish, Professor." That evening, when he arrived at her door, the world shifted in a way she didn't expect. He wore a black suit that framed every inch of him like it had been tailored for temptation itself. His hair was neatly styled, his eyes held a subtle fire. He didn't touch her. He didn't need to. His presence filled the entire hallway. "Amara," he murmured, using her first name for the first time. "Let me be good enough for you tonight." Her breath trembled. And that was the moment everything began to tilt, because she felt something she hadn't felt in years. Seen, not as a professor, not as a woman in need, but as a woman a man wanted to stand beside. They walked into the gala arm in arm. And in the crowd, far across the room, she spotted Alexander Reed, her billionaire, her dream, her future. He watched her with narrowed eyes, and beside her, the one person he should never see her with. Because the young man offering her his arm, offering her his warmth, offering her that subtle, disarming admiration was his son. But Amara didn't know that yet. She only knew one thing. Liam made her feel alive in a way she thought she had outgrown. And the night was just beginning. Before continue, I want you to take one small action that keeps this beautiful journey alive. If this story made your heart race, if you felt that spark, that ache, that pull of romance, then don't keep it to yourself. Hit subscribe so you never miss a single episode of this emotional roller coaster. Every click helps the story grow. Every share brings in someone who needs a little bit of love, hope, and warmth in their day. So if you believe in passion, if you believe in second chances, if you believe in the kind of love that steals your breath, then subscribe, like, and share this story with someone who deserves a moment of escape. The moment Alexander Reed's eyes landed on Amara, the room seemed to shift, as if the gala itself paused to breathe around them. He moved through the crowd with the slow, deliberate confidence of a man who owned the building. Because technically he did. Amara felt an old, familiar flutter rising in her chest, the same one she felt every time his name appeared in her inbox. Alexander Reed approved. Alexander Reed, funding released. Alexander Reed, congratulations. He wasn't just a donor. He was the man who had placed her career on a ladder she never imagined she'd climb. Tonight, he wasn't behind a screen. He was walking toward her, handsome, refined, controlled. And Liam stood beside her, his jaw tightening ever so slightly. "Dr. Hale," Alexander greeted, taking her hand with a gentle warmth that always lingered a little too long. "You looked unforgettable tonight." Liam's eyes flickered, sharp, unreadable. Amara flushed but maintained her composure. "Mr. Reed, thank you for coming. I didn't expect to see you here." "I wouldn't miss a night that celebrates your brilliance," he replied. The words hit softer than a whisper but deep enough to be felt. He released her hand slowly, as if reluctant, and then looked at Liam. "And who do we have here?" "Liam Carter," Liam said coolly. "Her date." Alexander's eyebrow lifted by a fraction, a subtle reaction, but Amara caught it. She chalked it up to the usual intimidation students felt around powerful men. But what she didn't know was this. That tiny twitch in Alexander's brow was the first crack in a secret he'd buried for years. A secret standing right at her side. Alexander didn't look at Liam again. Instead, he focused entirely on Amara, as if the rest of the room stopped existing. He spoke to her about her projects, quoting exact details she didn't even know he remembered. He congratulated her on the upcoming international conference. He casually mentioned he had recommended her name for a global fellowship that would triple her prestige. Her future was being redesigned in real time, by a man powerful enough to make it happen with a single sentence, but beneath his polished words, something else lingered. A gaze too warm, too personal. "Amara," he said softly, "I hope you know that your potential matters to me. Perhaps more than it should." She felt the pull. The kind of pull women feel when a man who could rewrite their life chooses to focus all his gravity on them. Before she could reply, Liam stepped closer, just enough that she could feel the heat of him at her side. "Professor," he murmured, voice lower than necessary, "you're needed for a photo." She wasn't needed. He just needed her away from Alexander, and she felt that tension. A quiet masculine clash, one polished and calculated, the other young and smoldering. Alexander smiled politely at Liam, but his eyes sharpened. "Liam, enjoy your evening." Liam didn't answer. She opened her mouth. No sound came out. Liam smiled faintly, seeing her silence for what it was, a confession she wasn't ready to voice. He stepped back, giving her space. Not because he wanted distance, but because he understood she needed to breathe. "I'm not trying to make your life complicated, Amara," he said softly. "I'm trying to make you feel something you've forgotten." "And what's that?" she asked, barely audible. He held her gaze, unblinking. "Wanted?" The word hit her like a warm shock, melting through layers she thought were frozen permanently. No student had the right to see her that clearly. And yet he did. For the first time in years, she didn't feel like a respected academic, or a woman drowning in expectations, or a professor hiding behind her title. For the first time in years, she felt desired, and that terrified her more than anything Alexander Reed could offer. By the end of the week, Amara received an email so shocking she had to read it 3 times. "Full departmental funding approved, Alexander Reed. Not partial, not temporary, full. Equipment upgrades, scholarships renewed, student aid expanded, and a discretionary fund with her name on it." It felt like an answered prayer. Except she knew prayers didn't come signed by billionaires with unreadable smiles. When she invited Alexander to her office to thank him, he arrived with the calm confidence of a man who understood the impact of every dollar he spent. "Dr. Hale," he said, stepping inside, "I hope this helps ease some of your burdens." She couldn't hide her gratitude. "This is beyond generous. I don't even know how to thank you." Alexander studied her, not her words, but her face. Her reactions, her sincerity. "You've earned it," he said quietly. Brilliance deserves room to breathe. The way he spoke. It wasn't just admiration. It was interest. Deep, focused, intentional. He wasn't looking at her work. He was looking at her. Later that day, Amara reviewed the discretionary funds and noticed there was enough to support struggling students through personal grants. Her mind immediately went to Liam. He had never complained, but she had seen it. The worn textbooks, the long hours at the campus workshop, the tension he carried behind his confident smile. Helping him felt natural, kind, professional. But more than anything, it felt right. So she approved a small scholarship in his name. Nothing flashy, nothing noticeable, just enough to ease his burdens. When Liam received the notification, he came to her office, breathless, eyes filled with something she couldn't name. "You did this?" he asked softly. "It's from the department," she corrected. "You earned it." He stepped closer, his voice dropping into that gentle, devastating register she was becoming addicted to. "Professor, you have no idea what this means for me." Her chest tightened. She tried to steady herself, to keep the walls up, but Liam's gratitude wasn't loud or overwhelming. It was quiet, sincere, intimate. "You look tired," he murmured. "When do you ever take care of yourself?" "I manage," she said quickly. "Let me help you," he whispered. "Even if it's just by being someone who sees you?" Her breath caught. He wasn't flirting. He was caring. And the worst part? She needed it. That evening, Amara attended a board dinner where Alexander sat at the head of the table, commanding the room with effortless authority. But his eyes found her instantly, and lingered. After the meeting, he approached her, hands in his pockets, expression unreadable. "Amara," he said, dropping her title for the first time. "I want to know more about you." She stiffened. "Me?" "Yes." His gaze swept her lightly, respectfully, but with unmistakable interest. "What drives you? What worries you? Who supports you? Who you spend your time with?" She swallowed. Something about his questions felt soft, yet strategic. Like he wasn't simply curious. He was studying her, learning her, positioning himself. She forced a smile. "My work is all I really focus on." Alexander nodded, though he didn't believe her. "And outside the university?" She hesitated. Liam's face flashed in her mind. His warmth, his tenderness, the way he made her feel seen. "No one," she finally said. Alexander's slow smile revealed too much. "Good," he whispered. "Then allow me to be the first." Her heart skipped. She didn't realize that the money she used to lift Liam was the same money that came from the man now watching her with intention. She was unknowingly building a bridge between a billionaire father and the son who wanted her in ways his father never could understand. And the storm that would expose everything was already forming. The hallway was almost empty when Amara finished her last class of the day. The kind of silence that settles only when the university has exhaled all its noise and gone still. She gathered her books, trying to distract herself from the tug-of-war happening inside her chest. Alexander's interest pulling one way, Liam's quiet tenderness pulling the other. She locked the classroom door, and just as she turned, Liam was there. Not close, not imposing, just waiting, like he somehow knew she'd walk out at this exact second. "Professor," he said softly, "let me walk you to your car." She opened her mouth to decline, but her exhaustion betrayed her. And the truth was, she wanted the company. His company, so she nodded. They walked side by side through the dim hallway, their footsteps echoing. Nothing inappropriate, nothing bold, just the kind of closeness that feels natural and dangerous. Outside, the evening breeze carried the scent of rain. Amara pulled her coat tighter. "You should go home, Liam," she murmured. "It's late." "I will," he said. "But not before I make sure you get to your car safely." The way he said it, quiet, protective, did something to her chest. When they reached her car, she fumbled with her keys, suddenly aware of how close he was. Not touching, not overstepping. Just there, warm, present, steady. "Professor," he said, voice low, as if sharing a secret with the night. "Can I tell you something without you shutting me out?" She froze, fingers still on her keys. "Depends what it is." He stepped into the soft glow of the parking lot light, shadows catching the sharp line of his jaw. But his expression wasn't cocky or playful. It was vulnerable. "Last night," he began, "when you walked into that gala, I felt something I don't have words for. Her breath stilled. You didn't look like my professor, he admitted. You looked like the kind of woman a man spends his whole life searching for. Her heartbeat stumbled. Liam, I know my place, he said quickly, gently. I know I'm younger. I know there are rules. I know you're trying to keep distance. He took one step closer. Just one, enough to make the air thicken. But you're the only person, he continued, voice barely above a whisper, who makes me want to be more than what people think I am. Her stomach flipped. More responsible. More focused. More enough. His words slipped under her skin like warm electricity, pure emotion, no vulgarity. The kind of confession a woman doesn't forget. Her throat tightened. Liam, you can't say things like that? Why? His question was so soft it felt like a caress. What part of it is untrue? She tried to look away. He gently angled his head, catching her gaze. I'm not asking for anything, he said. I'm not trying to cross a line. I just needed you to know that you matter to someone, not for your work, not for your reputation, but for the way you smile when you're tired and the way you care when no one deserves it. Her body responded, heat blooming low in her stomach. Her mind panicked, screaming for distance. Her heart clenched, wanting to lean in. Liam, she whispered. This is inappropriate. He nodded, slowly, respectfully. I know. Then he stepped back, hands in his pockets, giving her the space she needed. But pretend, just for 1 second, he added gently, that I'm not your student, and you're not my professor. Her chest tightened painfully. Would hearing that still scare you? Or would it feel good to be seen? Her lips parted. No sound came out. Because both were true. It felt terrifying. And it felt good. Too good. Liam smiled faintly, soft, not triumphant. I won't push, he promised. But I won't lie to you either. He took another step back, letting the distance swallow the tension. Good night, Amara. The way he said her name, like he was holding it carefully, sent heat through her entire body. She watched him walk away, and with every step he took, her self-control cracked a little more. The evening air was crisp, carrying the faint scent of rain. Amara's pulse raced, not from the weather, but from the black Maybach that slid to a stop outside her apartment. Alexander Reed stepped out, the kind of man who moved with quiet authority, as if the world paused for him. He opened her door with a precision that left no space for hesitation. You look remarkable tonight, he murmured, his gaze lingering just long enough to unsettle her. Amara forced a calm breath. She had Liam's words replaying in her mind, his gentle, intoxicating confession. And yet here was Alexander, a living embodiment of power and promise. They arrived at a private restaurant, closed, silent, intimate. A single table bathed in golden light waited for them, like the universe itself had reserved it for this moment. Alexander guided her to the chair, his hand brushing her shoulder. Not a touch meant to seduce. Not overt, but enough to send warmth crawling through her veins. Alexander, Amara, you're extraordinary, and extraordinary women deserve more than ordinary futures. Her chest tightened. She wanted to respond, to tell him she wasn't ready. But Liam's voice, soft and trembling, whispered in her mind, You're the only person who makes me want to be more... And suddenly, she wasn't sure what she wanted. Alexander leaned forward, hands resting on the table like he owned the space. And maybe in some small way he did. Alexander, I want to build your future. Professionally, personally, permanently. His words weren't a question. They weren't a suggestion. They were a claim. Amara felt both terrified and thrilled. Comfort wrapped around her chest. Security, power, certainty. But something deeper stirred, hotter, more urgent. The memory of Liam's late-night confession, of his warmth, of his tenderness, made her chest ache with a need she wasn't supposed to have. He slid a small velvet box toward her. Inside, a keycard to his private research institute. A career legacy. An invitation to a world she had always dreamed of, but never thought she'd touch. Her fingers brushed the card. Her heart skipped. Alexander, I want you beside me, Amara, not just at work. I want you in the moments that matter. The weight of his words pressed down on her. His thumb grazed her hand. Just a fleeting touch, but enough to make her pulse race, enough to make her body betray her mind. She forced herself to smile. I don't know what to say. Alexander, softly. You don't have to say anything yet, just don't pull away. Later, on the drive home, her phone buzzed. A message from Liam. I can't stop thinking about last night. Are you home safe? Her breath caught. Her body responded in ways she didn't expect. Her mind spun with confusion. Two men. One offered security, power, and a future she could grasp. The other offered warmth, desire, and a reflection of herself she hadn't seen in years. She realized, with sudden clarity, that she was standing in the middle of a storm she couldn't predict, and neither of them knew how much control they had over her heart. The rain hit her windows like nervous fingers tapping a warning. Amara's day had been relentless. Papers to grade, emails to respond to, and the ever-present weight of her career pressing down on her chest. She sank onto her couch, coat still damp, hair slightly frizzed from the drizzle outside, and finally allowed herself a moment to exhale. Then there was a soft knock at the door. Her heart lurched. Not because she expected anyone, but because she knew it would be him, Liam. She opened the door and there he was, soaked from head to toe, hair plastered against his forehead, clothes clinging lightly to his frame. Not intimidating, not imposing, just warm, vulnerable, real. Amara, he said softly, voice trembling ever so slightly. I needed to see you. Are you okay? She wanted to scold him. She wanted to tell him to leave. Instead, her body betrayed her. She stepped aside, letting him in. The room filled with the scent of wet rain, him and something she couldn't name, something that made her knees ache. He didn't touch her. He didn't lean in. He simply stood there, dripping, waiting, careful not to cross any line. But the presence, it was enough. They talked. Quietly. Liam asked about her day, her mood, her worries. Each question a gentle probe, each word a soft flame against the ice she carried around her heart. And then he smiled. A faint, crooked smile that reminded her of late nights at the library, of small confessions and quiet glances, of the first time he made her feel truly seen. Her chest tightened. She wanted to reach out. She wanted to bridge the small distance between them. Her lips parted, her mind raced, and for a heartbeat, she almost kissed him. The thought startled her. Her body responded, her mind panicked. But before she could act, Liam stepped back, his eyes catching hers with the gentlest question. Do you want me to stay? Her breath hitched. She wanted to say yes, but she knew the answer would unravel everything she'd tried to hold together. I can't, she whispered, her voice trembling. He nodded, understanding, yet the tension between them didn't break. Not completely. As he left, stepping back into the rain, the air in her apartment felt heavier. The warmth he carried lingered like a phantom, searing through her senses. Amara sank into her couch again. Her heart raced. Her thoughts were chaotic. Two men, two forces tugging at her. And now, Liam had entered her private space. Not crossing a line, but leaving an imprint that no power or promise could erase. The night stretched long, the rain pattering against the glass. And for the first time in years, Amara realized her heart might already be divided. The grand hall shimmered with golden chandeliers, the kind that made every woman feel either dazzling or invisible. Amara smoothed her dress, trying to center herself. She was here with Alexander Reed, the billionaire who had quietly begun shaping her life. Every eye turned as they entered. Whispers fluttered like tiny butterflies around her. Her pulse quickened. Her body felt alive, and dangerous in ways she hadn't anticipated. Alexander's hand rested lightly at the small of her back. Controlled, protective, assertive. Every inch of him radiated the kind of power that could command a room or a woman's heart. But Amara couldn't focus entirely on him. Across the crowd, Liam. His gaze found hers almost immediately. Not with arrogance, not with challenge, but with quiet intensity. Burning intensity. Her breath caught. Her heart raced. She tried to pull herself together, straighten her posture, focus on Alexander. But the gravity of Liam's eyes pulled at her like a tide she couldn't resist. Alexander noticed. A subtle narrowing of his eyes, a faint tightening at his jaw. He said nothing, but she could feel it. The silent question, the silent claim. Her body reacted without permission. Her mind panicked. Two men, two desires. Two opposing forces vying for her attention. Alexander leaned in, voice low, brushing against her ear. You belong here with me, tonight. Don't lose yourself to distractions. She nodded, lips trembling slightly. Yet her eyes drifted to Liam again, whose faint, crooked smile told her everything she dared not admit. He saw her. The real her. The woman beneath the titles, the responsibilities, the perfection she wore like armor. The night continued like this. Alexander offering safety, security, certainty. Liam offering warmth, vulnerability, and the impossible pull of temptation. A string quartet played softly, and Amara felt herself stretched taut between them. Her pulse thumped violently in her chest. Her thoughts scattered. Her body betrayed her with every glance toward Liam, every brush of Alexander's hand at her back. By the time the gala speeches began, she realized. She was caught in a storm that no one could calm. Two men orbiting her heart. Two forces pulling her in opposite directions. And she didn't yet know the secret tying them together. The one that would make everything shatter. The gala had ended hours ago. The crowd had thinned, leaving only the echo of soft laughter and the faint scent of champagne in the air. Amara stepped out into the university's private garden, the cool night air brushing against her skin like a whisper. She needed a moment alone, a moment to untangle the chaos in her chest. She hadn't expected Liam to be there. But as she rounded the corner, she saw him leaning against the wrought iron gate, his jacket pulled tightly around him, the soft light of lanterns casting gold across his sharp features. Amara, he said, his voice low, steady, carrying that dangerous warmth she had tried so hard to ignore. Why are you out here alone? I needed space, she admitted, her voice barely more than a breath. He took a step closer. Closer. And closer. Every step felt magnetic, drawing her into him. Her pulse quickened. Her chest tightened. Her lips parted unconsciously. You shouldn't be here, she whispered. You shouldn't. You shouldn't feel what you feel? He interrupted gently, almost teasingly. Or was it a challenge? Amara, look at me. And she did. His eyes were impossible. Warm, honest, vulnerable. And yet, there was that fire. The kind that made her knees weak without him even touching her. Last night, he began, voice trembling in a way that betrayed his control. I can't stop thinking about what you said, what you made me feel. Her stomach fluttered violently. Liam! No, he interrupted softly. I need to know the truth. Tell me how you really feel. Her chest rose and fell with quickened breaths. Everything inside her, the longing, the panic, the forbidden desire, tangled into one impossible knot. I feel something, she admitted, her voice quivering. Something I shouldn't feel. Something I can't control. He swallowed hard. The moment stretched between them like the soft tension of a drawn bow. The lanterns flickered in the wind, casting shadows that danced across their faces. He reached out slowly, carefully, just enough to brush her hand. The contact was electric. Her body responded before her mind could catch up. She closed her eyes, almost letting herself lean in. Almost. Her lips hovered near his. The world narrowed. The only sound was the distant rustle of leaves and the rapid beating of her heart. And then, a soft, deliberate step behind them. Amara's eyes snapped open. Alexander Reed, the billionaire, the man whose hands could shape her life, whose gaze could make or break her career, and whose presence had always carried the weight of inevitability. He was standing just at the edge of the lantern light, silent, watching. She froze. Her knees weakened. Her body betrayed her with a flush of warmth, a flutter of panic. Liam's hand fell away from hers, his face tight with controlled anger and embarrassment. "Alexander," he said quietly, but there was steel under his calm. "This isn't what it looks like." Alexander's gaze didn't waver. Not from Liam, not from her. It lingered on Amara. Intense, calculated, heavy. "I think it looks exactly how it feels," Alexander said, his voice smooth and quiet, but it carried like a clap of thunder. Amara wanted to sink to the ground. Her confession, her almost kiss, the truth she had just uttered, it all hung in the air like a live wire. Liam stepped protectively in front of her, jaw tight. "You're crossing a line," he said, more to himself than Alexander. "My line? Hers is—" He trailed off, unsure, frustrated, exposed. Alexander's expression softened just enough to unsettle both of them. "So," he said slowly, "this is how it's going to be? Two men orbiting the same woman. And she's already been tempted by one?" Amara's breath hitched. Her body pulsed with shame, panic, and a heat she could not control. She wanted to speak. She wanted to explain. She wanted to vanish. But Alexander stepped closer. Not menacing. Not threatening. But the weight of him, the quiet, unavoidable gravity, pressed down on her heart and mind. "And yet," he continued, softer now, almost intimate, "I've already done far too much for her future to let distractions ruin it." Liam's jaw clenched. The tension between father and son was sharp, visible, dangerous. Amara realized, with a sick twist of understanding, that everything was far more complicated than she imagined. The student she wanted, the man who could shape her destiny. And now the invisible strings tying them together, strings she never knew existed, had been pulled taut. She felt dizzy, trapped in a triangle that had been forming quietly around her heart. Her knees weak, her body trembling, not from the cold, but from desire, fear, and impossibility. Alexander's gaze softened, but the heat didn't leave his eyes. "You should leave," she whispered, voice breaking. Before any of this." He only tilted his head. "You're already too far in." Liam looked at her, tender, desperate, protective. Alexander looked at her, powerful, unyielding, commanding. And she was caught. Between confession and consequence, between desire and destiny, between the man who made her feel alive and the man who controlled her future, the night stretched endlessly. Rain whispered against the leaves. Lanterns flickered. And Amara realized fully and painfully, everything she had just felt would change her life forever. The morning light felt cruel, too bright, too revealing. Amara sat at her office desk, staring at her laptop, hands trembling. Her inbox was flooded, not with congratulations, not with confirmations, with cancellations. Grants frozen, scholarships revoked. Funding for her department disappeared like sand slipping through fingers. She reread the emails. The official tone of each notice was polite, sterile, professional, but the weight behind the words hit her like a punch to the chest. Her department, her students, her research, everything she had poured years of herself into, teetered on the edge of collapse. Her fingers shook as she scrolled through the lists of canceled awards, cutbacks, and denied requests. Her heart sank deeper with every line, and then she remembered the velvet card Alexander had slid across the gala table, the private institute key, the personal attention, the promises, the subtle words of claim. It all made sense now. Everything, the private dinners, the lingering touches, the way he had studied her reactions, had been a test. And she had failed. Liam was the first to find her. He burst into her office without knocking, drenched in the rain, breathless and alarmed. "Amara!" he exclaimed. "What happened? Are you okay?" Her hands flew to her face. I don't know," she whispered. Everything?" She couldn't finish the sentence. Her voice cracked. Her body felt hollow. Liam rushed to her side, instinctively putting a hand on her shoulder. "It's not your fault," he said firmly. But his eyes were filled with anger. Anger at the injustice of it all. anger at the man who had the audacity to wield his power like a weapon. "It's Alexander," she finally choked out. He froze the grants. All the scholarships. He's taken everything. My department, my students, my work. Her voice broke completely. The papers on her desk looked suddenly meaningless, weightless. Liam's jaw tightened. A dangerous energy pulsed around him. Protective, righteous, nearly feral. This isn't just about funding," he said quietly. "This is personal. He's punishing you. And I should have seen it coming. I should have—" He stopped himself, frustration cutting off the words. Amara looked at him, eyes wide, heart breaking, not from guilt, but from the fire in him. The same fire that had made her knees weak, that had made her almost kiss him in the garden. "I tried to protect you," he admitted, voice low. "But I couldn't." Her chest tightened. His presence, so alive, so raw, made her feel the vulnerability in herself more sharply. She realized the danger wasn't just her career. It was her heart. Alexander's wrath wasn't subtle. It was complete. Calculated, and now, the man who had promised her the world had become the one tearing it apart. Amara walked through the empty hallways of her department. The echoes of her own footsteps sounded like a funeral dirge. Classrooms that had once buzzed with ideas now felt hollow. The air smelled like lost potential, like dreams dissolved into dust. She opened an empty office. A lone chair sat in the middle. Stacks of untouched papers, research proposals, student submissions, grants she had fought for, sat in silence. Everything she had built, everything she had fought for, slipping through her fingers. Her chest tightened until she could barely breathe. Her hands shook. Her vision blurred with unshed tears. Liam stayed by her side the entire time. He held her hand once. He didn't speak much because words wouldn't fix this, but his presence anchored her, even as the world crumbled. "You have to fight back," he said finally, voice low but fierce. "You can't let him destroy everything you've worked for." Her lips trembled. I don't know if I can," she admitted, letting the vulnerability spill out. "I've given everything, and now it's gone. All of it." Liam's thumb brushed her hand. The warmth, the familiarity, the undeniable connection between them, it reminded her that she wasn't completely alone. That even when Alexander controlled her career, even when her world felt like it was collapsing, there was someone who saw her, who understood her, who would fight for her. And in that moment, she realized that the stakes had never been higher. Her heart, her work, her future. Everything she had ever valued was on the line. And two men, one who had the power to give and take everything, and one who carried a dangerous, tender fire, were at the center of it. Amara's world had just shattered. And now, she had to decide who she would trust, who she would fight for, and who she might ultimately lose herself to. The storm was only beginning. The rain had stopped, but the world outside Amara's apartment felt washed clean, and yet heavier than ever. She sat on the edge of her couch, hands clasped tightly in her lap, staring at the floor. Her chest was tight. Her mind raced. Her heart betrayed her with a confusing mix of heat and shame. Liam stood in front of her, soaked slightly from the drizzle outside, eyes fixed on hers. He was calm. Too calm for the storm of emotions she could see swirling beneath the surface of his cool exterior. "Amara," he began softly, voice low and deliberate. "There's something you need to know." She looked up at him, instinctively tense. I don't know if I can—" she started, her voice trembling. "I need you to hear me," he interrupted, taking a careful step closer. "Not because it's convenient, not because I want you to feel guilty, because you deserve to know the truth." Her breath hitched. He hesitated for a fraction of a second, just long enough for the fear inside her to tighten like a fist around her chest. Then he spoke. "My father, Alexander Reed. He's my father." The words landed like stones. Thud, thud, thud. Her mind scrambled, trying to reconcile the impossible. What do you mean?" she asked, voice barely audible. "I mean," Liam said, stepping even closer, his presence warm and grounding. That the man who's been funding your research, helping you, shaping your future, is my father. Her body stiffened. Her hands clutched at the couch cushion as her brain attempted to catch up. Liam noticed the shock, the weight pressing down on her, and softened his tone. "I never told you," he said carefully. "Not because I wanted to manipulate you, not because I wanted to play some game. I kept it from you because I wanted you to see me. Not the wealth, not the power, not my father's name. Just me." Amara's chest tightened further. Her heart raced. Her stomach flipped in a way that made her knees weak. She swallowed hard. You mean all this time I've been using his money on you?" Liam nodded slowly. "Some of it. Only because I didn't want you to feel like your choices were tainted by it. I wanted your kindness to be real. I wanted you to act without knowing the truth. And you did." Her hands flew to her face. Tears threatened. Shame, disbelief, and a strange warmth, unbidden, mixed into one confusing storm inside her. You've been helping me?" she whispered, voice breaking. "You, my generosity, my scholarships, the funds I used to help your family. It was all his money?" "Yes," he admitted quietly, almost painfully. "And I didn't correct you. I wanted you to see me, not the fortune. You didn't know. You acted with your heart. That makes it real." Amara's mind whirled. Her life, her work, her department. Every decision she had made in good faith, now tangled with the very man who had just destroyed it all in a single stroke. Her head dropped into her hands. I've been so blind," she whispered. "So naive, so foolish." Liam knelt in front of her, his hand brushing her shoulder gently, almost reverently. "Amara," he said softly, "look at me. You did nothing wrong. You acted with care, with love, with thoughtfulness. You didn't destroy anything. You gave." Her chest tightened. Her lips trembled. And yet the shame, the embarrassment, the impossible truth of it made her heart ache in a new, confusing way. "You see me differently now, don't you?" she asked, voice low. "I see you," Liam said firmly. "Not the money, not the man who funds your life. Just you, the woman who chose to give even when she didn't know the consequences. The woman who makes me want to be better, more than I thought I could be." Her breath caught. Her chest pulsed. Her mind spun. Every emotion tangled in a dangerous knot of desire, fear, and awe. She realized, fully, painfully, that everything, her choices, her kindness, her almost forbidden feelings, had unknowingly entwined her with both father and son. Two men, two forces. And she had been standing at the center of it all, completely unaware. Liam's hand lingered near hers, just shy of touching, as if the smallest contact could set the world on fire. Her body responded instinctively, heat pooling low, pulse racing, heart threatening to escape her chest. She couldn't look at him without remembering every moment. The garden, the late-night confession, the almost kiss, the warmth, the tenderness, and now the truth. Her world had shifted, and she didn't yet know if she could survive the collision of desire, loyalty, and the impossibly tangled web of father and son she had unknowingly stepped into. She closed her eyes, trying to breathe, trying to gather herself, trying to make sense of what had just happened. And when she opened them again, Liam was still there, watching, waiting. And for the first time she realized, everything she had felt for him, everything she had desired was no longer just forbidden. It was complicated. It was explosive. And it was just the beginning. The campus felt different, oppressive, hollow. The same hallways that once echoed with laughter, ideas, and inspiration now seemed cold, judgmental, almost hostile. Amara walked them alone, shoulders hunched, head down, trying to make herself invisible. Every step felt heavy, like walking through quicksand. Rumors had spread. Whispers clung to her like mist. Questions that weren't asked openly were shouted in the silence of glances. "Did you hear about Dr. Hale? She used the fund for personal gain. She's reckless, unprofessional, dangerous for students. Each word, each accusation felt like a blade scraping against her chest. Her heart raced, her throat tightened. She had fought so hard for her reputation, her department, her students, and it was crumbling around her like dry parchment. Her office, once a sanctuary, now felt like a cage. Papers stacked neatly on the desk seemed meaningless. Awards she had won, letters of recommendation, accolades earned through years of sweat and late nights, they felt irrelevant. And the worst part? She had no one. No colleagues she could trust. No students she could confide in. The whispers followed her even in the corridors. Professors she had once respected now avoided eye contact, or worse, stared with thinly veiled disdain. Meetings were tense, polite on the surface but jagged underneath. She had become an island in the university she had devoted her life to. Only one person tried to reach her. Liam. He showed up unannounced one rainy afternoon, knocking softly on the door she had locked tight for weeks. "Amara," he said gently. "Can I come in?" Her instinct screamed to refuse, to push him away, to keep the shame, the humiliation, the pain, all to herself. But something in his voice, in the warmth he carried even through the rain, made her hesitate. She let him in, and for the first time in days, she didn't feel completely alone. They sat in her office, the silence thick, yet comforting. Liam didn't ask questions. He didn't judge. He simply sat, close enough to touch, far enough to respect. "You don't deserve this," he said finally, voice low, almost a whisper. "You didn't do anything wrong." Her chest tightened. Her eyes stung with unshed tears. I've lost everything," she whispered. "My career, my students, my reputation. It's all gone." Liam reached out, brushing a damp strand of hair from her face. The contact was electric, warm, grounding, and terrifying all at once. "I'll help you," he said firmly. "You don't have to face this alone." Amara's hands shook. Her lips trembled. Her chest ached with the impossible truth. She needed him more than she wanted to admit. "I don't deserve you," she whispered, voice breaking. "After everything, after the mistakes, after using your father's money, I don't deserve someone like you." He shook his head, eyes dark with emotion. "You've always been deserving, Amara. Not because of what you've done, or what you haven't done, because of who you are. And right now, you need someone to see you, to hold you, to remind you of your worth." Her body responded without permission. Heat pooled low. Her pulse raced. Her lips parted, trembling. He didn't push. He didn't lean in. He simply stayed there, letting her feel seen, letting her know she wasn't alone. And that simple act of presence was enough to make her collapse. Days turned into nights of whispered encouragements, late-night phone calls, and quiet walks in the rain. Liam became the only tether keeping her from sinking completely into despair. He held her hand through tearful breakdowns. He offered advice, insight, and protection from the sharp tongues of colleagues. He reminded her of her brilliance, of her kindness, of the fire that had made Alexander notice her in the first place. Yet the guilt lingered, the shame, the realization that she had unknowingly built a bridge of generosity with money from the very man now punishing her. Every time she looked at Liam, she felt heat and despair tangled together. Her body ached with desire she hadn't dared to name. Her mind screamed to resist. Her heart whispered that she wanted him, needed him, more than she should. And every night, when the campus lights dimmed and she sat alone, she realized a terrifying truth. Without Liam, she would fall apart completely. Yet with him, she risked everything, even more. The storm of rumors, betrayal, and heartbreak had hit full force. Her career was in ruins. Her department trembled. Her students whispered. Her colleagues avoided her. And in the eye of it all, Liam was the only one holding her hand, steadying her, giving her hope. But hope came with a dangerous cost. A cost she wasn't sure she could or should pay. She closed her eyes. Her heart raced. And she knew one thing for certain. Her life and her heart were on the brink of irreversible change. The tension in the Reed mansion was suffocating. Marble floors reflected the harsh lighting, but no glow could soften the storm brewing between Alexander and his son. Liam stood rigid, fists clenched at his sides, jaw tight. Across from him, Alexander Reed's gaze was sharp, unyielding, a predator sizing up the only thing in the world he couldn't fully control, his son. "You will not see her anymore," Alexander said, each word precise, heavy with authority. "You understand me? This ends now." Liam's eyes flared, a mixture of anger, frustration, and something almost feral. "I will not obey you," he said quietly but with steel. "She's not yours to control, and I will not stand by while you try to ruin her life, her career, her future." Alexander's expression didn't change, but the room felt smaller, tighter, suffocating with unspoken menace. "You don't understand the forces at play, Liam. You never have. She is at the center of everything. Every decision I make for her career, for her life, is deliberate." "I understand enough," Liam snapped, stepping closer. "You've hurt her. You've destroyed her reputation, her department. You've frozen her work. And for what? To prove a point? To show power? She's not a pawn, Dad. She's a human being." Alexander's lips pressed into a thin line. "Human being or not, she is under my protection. And you are under mine. Do not mistake my care for weakness." Liam's chest heaved, but he didn't move back. His presence alone was a defiance Alexander could not crush. "I don't care about your power. I care about her. And I will fight for her, whether you like it or not." The tension wasn't just verbal. It hung in the air like static electricity, sparking dangerously. The father-son battle was no longer hidden. It was raw, personal, and violent in its emotional weight. Alexander's eyes narrowed. "You are too naive to protect her," he said slowly. "Everything I've built, every opportunity I've given, you risk it with your immaturity. You are reckless." "I'd rather be reckless than watch her suffer because of your pride," Liam shot back, voice sharp, shaking with fury and desperation. The room seemed to vibrate with the collision of their wills. It was as if the air itself knew a war was being waged, one of power, love, and dangerous obsession. Meanwhile, somewhere across town, Amara sat in her apartment, completely unaware of the private battle raging over her life. Her phone buzzed. A message from Liam. "We need to talk. It's bigger than us, bigger than you think." Her stomach twisted. Her pulse raced, and an icy realization settled over her. She wasn't just caught between two men. She was the epicenter of a war she never asked to be part of. Every touch, every confession, every almost kiss had led to this moment. Two men, father and son. Two forces circling her life, her heart, her destiny. And now, every choice she made, every breath she took, had consequences that stretched far beyond her understanding. Amara's hands trembled as she sat down, leaning heavily against the wall. The weight of being at the center of a billionaire family battle crushed her chest. She realized fully and painfully, no matter what she felt for Liam, no matter the warmth he gave her, the protection, the tenderness, Alexander's influence was absolute. Her career, her future, her heart, all hanging by threads pulled taut between father and son, and she didn't yet know which thread would snap first. Her eyes filled with unshed tears, and her heart ached with helplessness. The storm wasn't coming, it was already here. Amara sat alone in her apartment, the city lights outside casting fractured shadows across her floor. The night was silent, almost sacred, until the knock at her door shattered it. Her heart skipped. She wasn't expecting anyone, and yet she knew. Alexander Reed. She opened the door, and there he stood. Not angry, not imposing. Not cold, but calm, calculated, and for a moment, just a flicker, there was something almost apologetic in his eyes. "Amara," he said, his voice low and deliberate, the words carefully chosen. "I hope I'm not intruding." She stepped aside, letting him in. Her chest tightened. Every instinct screamed to push him out, to shut the door, to protect herself. But some unnameable force kept her rooted. Alexander moved with that same quiet authority he always had. He didn't sit. He didn't touch. He simply stood, surveying the room as if weighing her thoughts, her feelings, her soul. "Amara," He began again, softer now. I owe you an explanation. And perhaps an apology. She laughed bitterly. You think an apology can fix anything? He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he let the silence hang, long and heavy, until her chest ached under it. Finally, he spoke. I can't undo what's been done. The decisions I made, the actions I took, they were mine alone. But I want to make things right, like in my way. Amara felt a chill run down her spine. There it was, the quiet power, the underlying weight, the inevitability of his control. I am offering you a clean slate, Alexander said slowly, each word deliberate. A new job, a new department, a new country if you wish. Freedom from the chaos here, freedom to rebuild. Her breath caught. It sounded like salvation. It sounded like a second chance. And yet, she knew the cost before he even finished. But, he continued, voice low, there is a condition. Her heart skipped a beat. I will not ask you to forget me, but you must cut off all contact with him. Liam. Her throat tightened. Her stomach twisted. The warmth pooling low in her chest, an ache she had felt since the garden, since the gala, since every stolen glance, every tender word, suddenly became unbearable. Cut him off? She whispered, voice trembling. You mean permanently? Alexander's gaze didn't waver. Permanently, he confirmed, tone neutral yet heavy. Not because I don't trust him. Not because I want to control you entirely, but because his presence in your life complicates everything, including your future. Her mind reeled. Her heart raced. The truth was simple and brutal. If she accepted, her career could survive. Her research could flourish. Her department could be restored. Her life could continue. But her heart would break. Amara sank into a chair, burying her face in her hands. Every fiber of her being screamed in protest. The thought of cutting Liam out of her life felt like being asked to rip her own heart from her chest. You don't understand, she whispered, voice choked. I can't do that. He's the only one who's seen me, truly, in years. He's the only one who's been there, when everything else fell apart. Alexander knelt slightly, bringing himself closer to her level without touching her. You will survive this, Amara. You will thrive. I am offering you a chance at the life you deserve. And my heart? She shot back, voice breaking. What about that? He paused, the rare flicker of vulnerability crossing his otherwise unyielding features. You will learn to guard it, to protect it, to survive without him. Her chest tightened so violently she thought she might collapse. She couldn't breathe. She couldn't speak. The offer was clear. A future restored. At the cost of the only man who made her feel alive. She wanted to scream. She wanted to run. She wanted to leap into Liam's arms and never let go. But the weight of reality pressed down. Alexander stood, his presence filling the room, a silent reminder that he controlled more than just the offer. He controlled the opportunity to reclaim what had been lost. Amara closed her eyes, tears slipping down her cheeks. She was torn between two impossible choices. The man who could rebuild her world, and the man who had rebuilt her heart. Her body ached, her mind ached, her soul shattered. And in the quiet of that apartment, with Alexander's presence looming over her, she realized some choices were impossible to make, and some hearts were too dangerous to surrender. The city was quiet that night. Rain had fallen earlier, leaving the streets glistening under the pale glow of streetlights. The world seemed to hold its breath, waiting for what was about to happen. Amara stood on the balcony of her apartment, coat wrapped tightly around her, hair damp from the misty drizzle. Her hands trembled. Her chest ached. Her heart was in pieces. She didn't have to look to know he was there. Liam's presence was magnetic. Even at a distance, even without words, he had a way of drawing her in, of making her feel seen, wanted, alive. And that was the problem. She turned to face him as he stepped onto the balcony. His eyes, those impossibly warm, intense eyes, found hers immediately. No words, no hesitation, just him. Amara's throat tightened. This has to end, she whispered, voice breaking. I can't let us. It's too dangerous. Liam frowned, brow furrowing, confusion laced with the beginnings of frustration. Dangerous? He asked softly. You think I'm scared of the consequences? Of what your father thinks? Of the world? She shook her head, tears threatening to spill. It's not about fear. It's about survival. You deserve better than this mess. Better than me. He stepped closer, closing the space between them. The warmth of his body, the magnetism of his gaze made her knees weaken, but she refused to look away. She had to do this. She had to protect him. You don't get it, he said, voice low, fierce. I don't want your perfection. I want your truth, even if it's messy, even if it's complicated, even if it destroys us. Her chest heaved. Her hands trembled against the railing. Her lips parted, but no sound came out. He reached for her, cupping her face gently in his hands. The heat from his touch burned through her, searing and impossible. You've been trying to shoulder this alone for too long, he whispered. You don't have to. Not with me. Not ever. Amara's walls began to crumble. The tears she had fought back for weeks spilled freely now, hot and heavy. Her hands found his chest, clutching at him as if he were the only anchor in a storm too violent to survive alone. I love you, she admitted, voice choked, breaking under the weight of her own confession. The words felt like fire in her mouth, dangerous, raw, irreversible. Liam's lips brushed hers, gentle at first, asking for permission, and when she didn't pull away, the kiss deepened. It was desperate. It was messy. It was everything she had tried to deny herself for weeks. Her body melted into his embrace, every fiber of her aching to belong here, to him. Her heart pounded violently. Her mind screamed with fear and desire. Her soul, long disciplined, surrendered completely. They pulled back slightly, foreheads resting together, breaths mingling. I can't promise the world, she whispered. I can't promise safety, stabilities, or anything. Liam shook his head, pressing his forehead to hers. I don't need promises. I need you. All of you. Messy, broken, perfect. I need you. Her chest heaved, tears still sliding down her cheeks. The storm outside mirrored the storm inside her. A chaotic, impossible, breathtaking storm of love, fear, and desire. For the first time in months, she felt alive, unguarded, fully herself. Not a professor, not a target of gossip, not a pawn in a billionaire's game. Just a woman in love. Hours passed in that embrace, the world outside fading completely. For one night, the city, the rumors, the threats, the father-son battle, all of it disappeared. She had chosen him, not the clean slate, not the safety, not the life her career might demand. Her heart had chosen, and as they held each other tightly, the rain falling softly beyond the balcony, Amara realized one immutable truth. Some love is worth all the consequences. Some truths are too powerful to deny, and some hearts are worth fighting for no matter how messy, impossible, or dangerous. The skyline of the city glittered under the harsh winter moon, but inside Alexander Reed's penthouse, the atmosphere was dark, oppressive, and suffocating. Marble floors gleamed coldly beneath the flickering chandelier, reflecting not elegance, but the tension that had grown into a tangible, living thing between him and the world he once controlled. Alexander sat behind his desk, fingers drumming an impossible rhythm on polished wood. Reports were stacked high, emails buzzing with urgent notifications, phone calls unanswered. His empire, once untouchable, untarnished, was under attack. Financial maneuvers, public scandal, insider betrayal. Everything he had built over decades now teetered on the brink of collapse. He needed someone who could see him, not the empire. Someone who could understand the man behind the money. Someone who had never judged him. Only one person came to mind, Amara Hale. She, however, was nowhere near his office. She was somewhere Alexander could never reach unless she chose to be. Somewhere her heart and mind were aligned in a way he never could control. With Liam. For weeks, Alexander had plotted, maneuvered, and manipulated, believing that control over Amara meant control over the situation. But he was wrong. And tonight, that truth was undeniable. Liam had never been a pawn. Amara had never been a trophy. The phone in Alexander's hand trembled slightly, not from fear, but from rage. He dialed her number, each second a sharp reminder that she might refuse. She answered calmly, measured, distant, a tone he had never heard before. "Alexander," she said softly, "your empire is crumbling." Her voice cut deeper than any insult. It wasn't just fact. It was judgment, truth, and it had no mercy. "I need you," Alexander said, desperation finally creeping into his tone. "I need your insight, your guidance. Only you can help me now." There was a pause, a silence that screamed louder than words. "And why should I?" Amara asked quietly. "After everything? After the way you tried to control me, manipulate me, ruin my life?" Alexander's jaw tightened. All the carefully built composure, the ironclad arrogance, slipped for a fraction of a second. He realized with brutal clarity that he had miscalculated. She didn't belong to him. She never had. And the truth he had buried under layers of desire, possession, and ego struck him with the force of a physical blow. He had never loved her. Not truly. Not the way she deserved. Not the way Liam did. He had wanted to possess her, to have her under his control, tethered to his life, his wealth, his rules. And now, she had chosen someone else. Meanwhile, Amara and Liam sat in the small warmth of her apartment, the glow of lamplight soft against their faces. Outside, the city moved on, oblivious to the crumbling empire and the storms it had caused. Inside, they existed in a world of their own making, a fragile, tender, dangerous bubble of stolen moments and unspoken promises. "I can't believe he thought he could control you," Liam murmured, brushing a damp strand of hair from her cheek. Her lips trembled, and her chest ached with the residual fear and adrenaline of having finally broken free from Alexander's grasp. "I almost let him," she admitted, voice low. "But I chose you." Liam's hand found hers, fingers intertwining, holding tight as if the very act of touch could anchor both of them in a world that had been chaotic for far too long. "You chose love," he said simply. "Even when it wasn't safe, even when it was messy, even when it could have destroyed us both." Back in his penthouse, Alexander's assistant approached hesitantly. "Sir, the press is calling. Investors are panicking. The stock." Alexander cut him off with a wave. He sank into his chair, running a hand over his face. All the power, all the money, all the control. None of it mattered. Amara's rejection wasn't just personal. It was proof that his empire could not bend human hearts to his will. He had been beaten not by rivals or financial attacks, but by love. And for the first time in his life, Alexander Reed realized he had nothing left that truly mattered. Amara, meanwhile, laughed softly, bittersweet, exhausted, alive, leaning into Liam's embrace. They didn't need a penthouse, wealth, or power. They had each other. They had trust, passion, and a love that had survived lies, manipulation, and impossible choices. The world outside could crumble. Empires could fall. Rumors could rage. But as long as they had this fragile, messy, undeniable connection, they could face anything. And in the quiet of that small apartment, with the city lights reflecting in her teary eyes, Amara finally understood. Some battles are worth losing to win the only thing that truly matters: love. The office of the Reed estate was cold, impersonal, and sterile, but tonight it held the kind of tension that could crack steel. Liam stood there, shoulders squared, jaw tight, and eyes ablaze with determination. Across from him, Alexander Reed, towering, authoritative, unyielding, watched his son with a mixture of disbelief and fury. "You can't be serious," Alexander said, voice low, dangerous. "You're throwing away everything your name was meant to give you, everything your inheritance was supposed to secure." "For her?" Liam didn't flinch. He didn't waver. He held his father's gaze with a calm fire that only those who truly love someone can summon. "Yes," Liam said firmly, voice steady despite the storm raging inside him. "For her. For Amara. For the woman who's worth more than any title, any fortune, or any empire you could hand me." Alexander's fists clenched at his sides. He had tried to control this world, every person, every outcome, but he had underestimated the force of love. The truth burned through him like acid. His son's loyalty, his son's heart could not be bought, coerced, or manipulated. "You're reckless," Alexander said, teeth grinding. "You'll ruin everything you were supposed to be, everything I've worked for." "I'll gain everything I need," Liam replied, unwavering. "And everything I gain is with her." Meanwhile, across town, Amara paced in her apartment, unable to sit still. Her phone buzzed incessantly, messages from colleagues, from friends. But her heart wasn't in the world outside. It was with him, always with him. A soft knock at the door broke her spiral of anxiety. She opened it to find Liam standing there, wet from the evening rain, but eyes shining with certainty, unshaken by fear or doubt. "Amara?" he began, voice low, filled with emotion. "Tonight, I did something for you. For us. I gave up the inheritance. I walked away from the life that was supposed to be mine. Because the life I want is with you." Her hands flew to her mouth, unable to speak. Tears blurred her vision. Her chest ached so violently that each breath felt like a stab. You gave it all up?" she whispered. You sacrificed everything. For me?" He stepped closer, reaching for her hand, his fingers intertwining with hers as if to anchor her, to prove that what he offered was real, tangible, and irrevocable. "Yes," he said, voice thick with emotion. "Because I don't care about titles, wealth, or power. I care about you. Your heart, your soul, your happiness. That's worth more than anything I was ever promised." Amara fell into him, tears soaking his jacket as she clung to the man who had given up everything for her. Her body trembled with relief, fear, and desire all at once. For weeks, she had felt trapped between worlds, between Alexander's control and Liam's dangerous allure. And now finally the truth was clear. The billionaire's son was never the prize. It had never been about money, inheritance, or status. It was always about the man beneath the title, the man who saw her, who wanted her, who fought for her, even when the world demanded she let go. Alexander, watching from his penthouse window, felt the cold sting of loss. His son had chosen love over power. He realized finally that no amount of wealth, influence, or force could control what mattered most, a human heart. Liam didn't look back. He held Amara close, feeling the warmth of her embrace, the rapid pulse of her heart, the tremor of her lips against his shoulder. In that moment, they were untouchable. Not because of fortune or status, but because of trust, passion, and the raw truth of their love. They stayed like that for hours, the world outside fading completely. There were no schemes, no whispers of scandal. Just the two of them, messy, vulnerable, alive. "I never want to lose this," Amara whispered against his chest. "I never want to doubt it again." "You won't," Liam replied, his hand brushing the damp strands of her hair from her face. "I'll fight for us, every day, every hour, every moment. Because what we feel, is worth more than any empire, any fortune, any inheritance." Her lips trembled. Her body ached. And in that moment, she understood something fundamental. Love isn't about wealth, power, or security. Love is about sacrifice. Love is about truth. Love is about choosing someone, even if it means giving up everything else. And Liam had chosen her, fully, irrevocably. And she would choose him too. The first light of dawn spilled across the city, washing the streets in soft gold and pink hues. For Amara, it wasn't just morning, it was a rebirth. After months of chaos, heartbreak, scandal, and impossible choices, the world finally felt still. The storm had passed. Her department buzzed quietly with life once more. Students laughed in the hallways. Colleagues offered genuine smiles, not whispered glances. Her research grants were reinstated. Her work, her passion, her life, slowly, carefully, was returning to her. And standing in the center of it all was Liam. He had changed too, not the man she had first met, but someone stronger, more confident and more certain than ever. His eyes held the same warmth, the same intensity, the same unshakable devotion that had drawn her in from the start. "Morning," he said, leaning against the doorway, the sunlight catching the edges of his damp hair from the early jog he claimed kept him sane. Amara smiled, the genuine kind, the kind that reaches deep into the soul and refuses to leave. "Morning," she replied, brushing a loose strand of hair from her face. They stood like that for a long moment, the silence between them filled with everything they hadn't said: fear, longing, relief, desire, love. Alexander Reed appeared quietly in the doorway of her office, tall, imposing, but something softer in his expression. He had come not to command, not to control, but to acknowledge. "You've both handled everything better than I could have expected," Alexander said slowly, voice low but sincere. "I may not have shown it, but I respect your choices. Liam, you've made your path. Amara, you've stood your ground. I step back with my blessing. Reluctant, perhaps, but genuine." Amara's eyes widened, her chest tightening. She had never expected this. Not from Alexander Reed. And yet, she felt the weight lift, the tension release, the possibility of true peace. Liam's hand found hers immediately. No words were needed. His squeeze, firm and grounding, said everything. We made it together. Weeks passed. The world outside continued its relentless pace, but within their little corner of it, life began to flourish. Amara's department thrived. She implemented new programs, introduced innovative research, and watched as students and colleagues rallied around her once more. Every success, every smile, every breakthrough reminded her that she had not just survived, she had reclaimed her life. Liam, meanwhile, poured himself into something new. He founded a scholarship program in his own name, independent of his father's empire, designed to help young students pursue their passions without the burden of money or expectation. Every time a student wrote him a note of gratitude, he thought of Amara, the woman who had taught him what it truly meant to fight for love and integrity. One evening, as the sun dipped low and painted the sky with streaks of fire, Amara and Liam walked hand in hand along the quiet campus path. The air was crisp, filled with the scent of autumn leaves and possibility. "I can't believe how far we've come," Amara said softly, glancing up at him. "From a stand-in date to this." Liam smiled, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "You don't give yourself enough credit," he said. "You've been the anchor, the fire, and the heart of all this. I just got to be there with you." Her pulse quickened. Her chest ached with love and longing. Without thinking, she leaned into him. Their lips met, soft at first, questioning, and then deep, unrestrained. A kiss that spoke of relief, passion, and the culmination of everything they had endured. Her hands tangled in his hair. His hands traced her back, memorizing the curves, the heat, the life that was hers, and now irrevocably his. It was messy, it was perfect. It was them. When they pulled back, breathless and flushed, Amara rested her forehead against his. Her voice was low, trembling, and filled with the depth of every moment they had shared. "I chose him once, as a stand-in date. But he chose me forever." Liam smiled, his eyes soft and burning at the same time. "And I'll keep choosing you, every day, every moment. No matter what comes, no matter what the world says, you're mine." Her heart swelled, nearly too big for her chest. The past, with its betrayals, manipulations, and impossible choices, felt distant now. All that mattered was this, the present, raw and alive, and the future they would build together. They walked into the fading light, arms entwined, hearts aligned, laughter spilling into the crisp evening air. The world could continue to spin its chaos. Rumors could whisper, wealth could rise and fall. But they had each other, and that was everything. Final emotional beat. Amara looked up at him once more, the warmth of his hand against hers, the steady beat of his heart beneath her cheek, the fire in his gaze. And she knew finally and completely, love had chosen them both. And for the first time in a long, long time, she felt truly, gloriously free. If this story pulled your heart, don't leave without hitting subscribe, because the next chapter of love, betrayal, and redemption is already on the way. Tap the like button if Liam and Amara's love hit you right in the chest. It tells YouTube you want more stories just like this. Drop a comment below. Whose side are you on? Team Liam, Team Alexander, or Team Amara all the way? Don't forget to share this video with someone who loves a powerful romance with real heat and real heart. Turn on the notification bell so you don't miss the next episode. Because trust me, the storm isn't over. If you love emotional tension mixed with luxury, danger, and deep love, subscribe. You're exactly where you belong.